Hi everyone, welcome to PyBay. First off, from the bottom of my heart, I want to say thank you to the organizing team. It's incredible what they've done in just a few short weeks. And thank you all for being here today. This is actually my first conference ever speaking, and I do wish it was in person, but I really hope that you're all safe and happy. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about onboarding new hires. But before that, who am I? Well, I'm Anshul. I'm a recent grad from UCLA and currently a software engineer on the capital originations team at a firm. In the past, I've been a Kleiner Perkins Fellow, an intern with Helix, and an engineer at Microsoft. I'm a three-time founder in fields from video games to mental health, and basically what I'm trying to say is I have onboarded and been onboarded enough times to see the cracks in the system. I'm also just obsessed with human connection. My personal goal in life is to make people just a little happier. I love to take sociological, psychological, cognitive research and apply that to tech for scale. I've interviewed hundreds of people trying to look for patterns in curating human happiness for the happiness database, trying to create the largest database of human happiness in the world. Stay tuned for that one. I've been involved with improving onboarding at a firm, developing a lot of these resources. Basically, I've talked to the experts, I've ran my own experiments, and I've pulled my hair out so you don't have to. Today, we're going to be applying psychology to onboarding, trying to find a better concrete mental model to improve it. The goal here is to take a scientific approach to something that is often hard to quantify and understand. In today's agenda, we're going to be going through and talking about the current state of onboarding and why it sucks, defining onboarding and why it matters, talking about one of my friends Maria's onboarding stories, using new mental models to be able to fix that, and coupling theory of how to supercharge our onboarding. So let's start with the current state of onboarding and why it sucks. So onboarding is the first time someone interacts with a company as an employee. Good or bad, these first impressions stick. Low morale, engagement, trust, all these things lead to high churn. High churn leads to more hiring, leads to worse support, which leads to even higher churn. For underrepresented groups, this isn't just a blip or a bad experience. This is emblematic of the entire industry and a reason to leave the profession. Bad onboarding is bad support, and that lack of support is driving people out of our industry. Finally, the pandemic. Put simply, the water cooler just doesn't exist anymore. Now that we're all remote indefinitely, we're lost on how to make a new member feel included. So this talk is primarily for managers of software engineering teams in mid-sized companies defined as 250 to 1,000 people hiring for less than 3 years of experience. Yes, it's strict, but this is about who I am. I'm a junior developer at a mid-sized company telling you how I wish I was onboarded. Junior developers also have the highest churn rate and are often the ones that really need the most involvement. I'll be talking about examples about how we improve this at a firm and concrete ways to improve your own onboarding using psychology. So this is the thesis for the entire talk. Investing in your people is the best investment a company can make, and onboarding is the first time you're investing in your people. Onboarding is truly an investment, which means it's extended over a very long period of time, and the expectation should be as such. So let's talk about Maria. This is Maria. Hi, Maria. So Maria just joined Namas, a medium-sized company with approximately 650 people. She's also a new grad with less than 3 years of experience, and she's really obsessed with human connection and loves coffee. Maria's onboarding. So let's track her progress for the first couple of months. And in all honesty, a lot of things went wrong. So on a high level, we'll cover the issues she's faced and then dig into how we can make the experience better. First off, when Maria arrives on her first day, she needs to set up her dev environment. When her manager sends her the entire unordered engineering wiki, Maria can't figure it out and ends up not being able to set up her dev environment for a whole week. After finally getting set up, she gets assigned a couple of tasks. But without good support, she can't figure out how to test and spends at least another 2 weeks trying to figure out how to contribute. A month in, Maria overhears a conversation from her senior teammate, which casts doubt about her ability. That ruins their trust in the team, and she falls behind even further. And finally, 3 months into working remotely, Maria feels stressed and lonely and can't seem to find people to connect with in isolation. Clearly, none of these situations has made Maria very happy, and she ends up leaving Namas 6 months in. These are all failures of onboarding and improper investment. Let's take a step back, dig into each of these scenarios, and figure out what we can do to make this experience better. To start, we're going to be talking about how to build better mental models around onboarding. We'll be taking some old psychological research, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that pyramid, and combine it with the fundamentals of what we want a person to get out of onboarding, the pillars. First off, pyramids. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it might be something you've seen before. This was actually developed in 1954 by American psychologist Abraham Maslow, and it talks about the needs of a human inside of a society. It starts with physiological needs. Do you have food? Do you have warmth? Do you have shelter? Then your safety needs. Are you going to be attacked by a tiger within the next 2 minutes? Are you going to be attacked by a tiger in the next 2 hours? Then it goes on to your belongingness needs, your intimate relationships, the friends that you make along the way. Your esteem needs. Do you feel like you're an important person that's contributing to this society? And finally, self-actualization, where you feel that you're actually achieving your potential as a member of that group. Lower needs need to be satisfied before being able to move up the pyramid. And as you can see, safety needs and physiological needs are what we call deficiency needs. When a person is in deficiency, negative psychological impacts can occur. Most behavior is multi-motivated. For example, physiological needs and safety needs motivate people to find really strong shelter. Cool, but how does this apply to our developer employees? This is introducing the hierarchy of developer needs. This is something that I've been thinking through and wanted to show off to you guys a little bit. First off, we start with physiological needs, a lot of which your paycheck funds. It's also your PTO, your Jira tickets, it's the LaCroix in the office kitchen, a lot of the things that you expect to have in a developer job. Then it goes to your safety needs, meaning your job expectations, what your career is going to look like. Are you going to get reorged next week? Then it goes to your belongingness needs, your community, the culture. Is there a vision that this company exudes? Then your esteem needs, your promotions. Do you feel like a subject matter expert? Do you get the recognition you feel that you deserve? And finally, self-actualization, where you have a responsibility within the company as well as the creativity to be able to accomplish any goals. The goal of every manager is to get everyone that they can into self-actualization. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we want our onboarding to actually accomplish. These are the 3 pillars of onboarding: job context, psychological safety, and socialization. When we talk about job context, we want our onboarding to be able to teach the skills and knowledge and the context of how to be an effective employee. This is the nuts and bolts of how to do the unique parts of the job that don't carry over from other companies. Then we want to be able to create a space that people feel comfortable and know that they won't be penalized. This promotes open communication and quick efficiency. And finally, we want our onboarding to be able to socialize the new hire with others throughout the company, to really welcome them into the company culture. It encourages cross-functional conversation and that kind of cultural investment. Now, this is something that I think is super interesting, where I see a lot of overlap. If you notice, the 3 pillars of onboarding map pretty well to the hierarchy of needs. Here's the mapping. You can see that job context maps almost directly with physiological needs. The psychological safety of a person maps with their safety needs, and socialization maps with their belongingness needs. Remember what we talked about with deficiency needs? Everything below belongingness needs is a deficiency need, which means that effective onboarding creates a good platform to set people up for success beyond their deficiency needs. But bad onboarding leaves people in their deficiency needs. So this is where I propose we take a new mental model around onboarding, what I call the onboarding Venn. This is the onboarding Venn, and it uses the central pillars of what we want onboarding to accomplish, combining with what we know about how needs are multi-motivated, and uses the overlap to help us supercharge our onboarding. Let's see how we can fix Maria's onboarding using this new model, and starting with job context. On Maria's first day, she's trying to get set up, and Maria's manager sends her the engineering wiki. Read through this when you can, he says. Maria spends the rest of the day trying to figure out what she needs for her setup, and she ends up spending the rest of the week unable to get her dev environment set up. She's frustrated. After finally getting set up, Maria gets assigned a couple of quick tasks, and she can't figure out how to access the testing platform. She gets stuck trying to figure out how to test, and when she asks another person, they send her more documentation. It takes her 2 days to read through it, and unable to contribute for far longer. These issues stem from a lack of organized job context. Learning everything on the job is still a part of the job itself. This makes her physiological needs depreciate. To solve this, let's use a tactic that I call managing the fire hose. When new hires start, they're often told to drink out of a fire hose when you've only ever been taught to drink out of a water fountain. I know I did. I mean, coming from the largest code base I'd ever written in college was maybe a 2,000 line personal website I'd built from scratch. I was completely lost to see a firm's 2 million line mono repo. The goal with context isn't to teach the person everything that they need to know. It's to help them make the mental models necessary to get the information where they need it. We can apply what we call cognitive load theory. In reality, people can really only remember approximately 7 things in their short-term memory. And the way I view it is 7 context tokens. Every time I'm trying to teach something, I have 7 tokens I can spend on that person. Repetition of these 7 tokens really helps embed it into long-term memory, but anything above 7 becomes intensely overwhelming. Let's give you an example. This is a firm's old engineering wiki space. If you're confused, you're not alone. So was I. The bar on the left honestly isn't even the wiki. It's technically the home of our Confluence page, and the top link is what actually gets you to the wiki. This isn't that great. I mean, the sidebar looks like my receipt at Costco. Discoverability is impossible. Control F is my only hope. And there's way more than 7 things going on. It's really hard to make a mental model of what this page is supposed to look like. Now, doesn't this look so much better? Similar to how computers handle byte memory size, our brains also chunk information into 7 tokens. We have 14 sidebar components that are now connected for ease. The visual display is also so much clearer, allowing the user to make much better mental models of how to navigate the page. The usage of colors and highlights draws in people visiting the page for the first time, making it clear that this is the important part. Welcome to a firm. Now, okay, I know what you're saying. An engineering wiki front page has a lot of information on it, and you're probably not going to be editing that tomorrow. What about something for your organization? This is the wiki for our point of purchase engineering team. On the left is the old system, and it's atrocious. I mean, why is the spec for black, a linter for Python, on the same level as the triage? On the right, as you can see, our 7 tokens are spent beautifully and intentionally. Now that we've been able to help Maria with these new bite-sized onboarding documents, she's able to contribute within her first week. At a firm, we've been pretty good at getting someone to commit to our codebase within the first couple of days. Next, let's talk about psychological safety in Maria's journey. In the cafeteria a month in, Maria overhears a conversation that this new hire might not be doing so well from one of her senior engineers. Maria starts to wonder, are they talking about me? What do they think of my onboarding? Am I going too slow? In response, Maria stops asking for help and ends up not being able to complete a lot of her tasks. Maria feels psychologically unsafe. Let's see how we can use a tactic I call feedback loops to help reestablish psychological safety and improve her safety needs. Psychological safety is being able to be present and not penalized for being so. Often, this is really compounded by stereotype threats underrepresented group space, where it feels that they're the center of even worse feedback. Tighter feedback means taking a more active role in a direct report's progress. This means that communication about problems should be more frequent than the semi-annual performance review, and being honest and open while being giving that honest self-evaluation is very important. You need to separate those procedural touch points of what's happening with a specific function or a specific operation from the long-term career of investing that person. The most important part, though, for any manager is to come into these one-on-ones prepared to invest in the person you're talking to. The other side of this too is vulnerability. Active vulnerability helps build trust, especially for underrepresented groups. If I know that my manager is capable of talking about their issues and what's happening with them, I know that I'm in a team that is a team for a team's sake. Active is also intentional vulnerability. Make sure to respect and maintain clear boundaries where appropriate, and mix in a little bit of positivity in there. It doesn't have to be just vulnerability about what's going wrong, but positivity about maybe you just got a new dog. Now, post the cafeteria conundrum, Maria's manager notices a decrease in Maria's engagement with the team. During their weekly one-on-ones, they ask about how their onboarding has been. Maria ends up mentioning the incident in the cafeteria and talks about her trust for a more senior teammate. With Maria's manager reassures her, gives her an honest evaluation of progress, and with her consent, the manager approaches the teammate and recommends a chat with Maria. After that conversation about expectations and experiences, the teammate understands and trust is rebuilt. When we talk about quantifying psychological safety, it's difficult. I mean, surveys and metrics are infrequent. Uh, we want to monitor responsiveness about issues from direct reports. Honestly, the biggest indicator is if you haven't heard anything bad in a while. Now let's talk about the third pillar, socialization. Maria feels lonely, especially with social distancing. She doesn't feel like she's a part of her team. She doesn't really know anybody. She's not sure how to reach out, and the company feels too large. Because of this, cross-functional projects are hindered. She doesn't know who to reach out to, and Maria feels even more isolated. Maria's belongingness needs aren't being fulfilled here. This could lead to a lack of engagement and uninterest. Let's use what I call directed involvement to fix that. So setting up directed involvement is that before the start date, we need to create a list of people that are important to this person's day-to-day. This is teammates, cross-functional partners, HR representatives, etc. We have those people set up time on the calendar for the new member. This is super important as it shows that there's actual investment from the team to the new member. Then we create a list of another person of interests and shared experiences with the person. This is employee resource groups, varied roles, and interest groups. Variety and diversity is important here. It gives more opportunities for outlets. Encourage the new hire to ask the question, who should I talk to next? The benefits of directed involvement are that it curates a sense of community. People feel like they're actually a part of something larger than themselves. And that investment in the person that each person makes on scheduling those one-on-ones begets that investment in the team, that people know that they're willing to be here and want to be there. It starts the social graph of what we know help cross-functional projects and get to know more people across the organization. Now, Maria goes through all the conversations that her manager has set up and finds some amazing people she's glad to get to know. And during her workday, she starts messaging back and forth with more people. Maria feels more fulfilled and is ready to contribute to the team. This means that her belongingness needs have now been fulfilled. Now, finally, having gone through all three of those pillars and understanding the core tenets of what makes this model so powerful, let's talk about how we can really bring our onboarding to the next level with coupling theory. Coupling theory was proposed by Malcolm Gladwell recently that behaviors can actually be linked to the context in which they exist. We can actually use this to our advantage, and this is where a lot of the superpower of this model comes into play. We can anchor specific behaviors into the context of our goals. Let's walk through some quick recommendations of ways to really supercharge this Venn. First off, we can talk about a collaborative mindset. This combines the aspects of job context and psychological safety. Here, the first few tasks for any new hire should be almost entirely pair programming. What this does is it establishes a culture of collaboration and encourages psychologically safe conversations. If you've already worked so closely with this person before and accomplished separate tasks with them, not only will you be able to replicate those much quicker, you'll be able to have somebody to talk to immediately. Maria, in this case, can ramp faster than she ever could before by being able to copy what someone before has been able to do. Second, let's talk about Dunbar's communication. This combines job context and socialization. Dunbar's number is a psychological concept that a person can have a max of 150 stable relationships. What this really means to us is that you can't know everybody in your organization, but everybody should be within asking 3 people for any given question. Directed involvement and that spread and diversity that we were talking about earlier really helps with the job context, as well as giving that opportunity for cross-functional partners to be able to communicate much better. Because of a wide variety across the entire organization and better directed involvement from her manager, Maria is able to be a better cross-functional partner. Finally, let's talk about pressure valves. This combines psychological safety and socialization. Pressure indubitably will rise on teams. It's natural. When people work together, there is intensity. Now, using directed involvement, we allow pressure valves to exist outside of the team. People impartial to the situation can act as sounding boards, maybe somebody on another team or somebody who is a close friend of Maria. Not only does this encourage safety, having somebody that is impartial be able to communicate with, It also avoids hot-headed conversation and allows both parties to reapproach these conversations and without the pressure that was originally there. Maria can then escape from her team and get honest feedback on her thoughts and reapproach conversations within her team in a psychologically safe way. Now, we went through a lot today. To recap, we use a hierarchy of needs and the onboarding pillars to create the onboarding Venn. We've walked through each of the parts of the Venn with Maria's experience and developed concrete takeaways to implement and supercharge onboarding on your team. If there's anything that I can impart on you today from this conversation, is that people are your biggest asset. People are your biggest investment. Onboarding is the most important time to be able to show that investment. Thank you to everybody here, and thank you so much for listening to me. If you're interested in how humans connect, tech and community, or if you just want to chat, follow me on Twitter @worldofunshul and email me at unshul.agarwal@affirm.com. Feel free to follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/supercharged. Also want to give a huge shout out to all the friends that listen to this and Cindy Chung, an amazing friend of mine who helped design all these slides with a massive time crunch. Now time for Q&A. Anybody have any questions?